All righty. Welcome to Roots of Renewal, the vision behind the Phoenix Food Forest. Did you know there's a Navy veteran in Phoenix turning barren, forgotten city spaces along the streets into the nation's largest food forest? You do now. That's right. What started out as one man's vision is now transforming neighborhoods, fighting food insecurity, and creating a model that could line city streets across America with life and community. Hi, I'm Siobhan Shaw, co-founder of Growing to Give, and tonight on this special Giving Tuesday, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the powerhouse behind this movement, Christopher Macy.
Thank you.
Hi, Christopher. How are you?
Good. It's a pleasure, as
So,
always.
so you are a Navy veteran,
Yes.
and you've swapped your uniform for a shovel to plant trees. It's amazing because you've dedicated yourself to creating the Phoenix Food Forest initiative, and it's a project like nothing I've seen before. I don't think our audience has seen before. It's basically a one-man show, and has been for the last 4 years. And what really we're talking about is those heat busting shade, food security, and community resilience. And it's all growing from underutilized space in Phoenix, Arizona. And so we're going to dive into what you're doing, Christopher, your story, the incredible work that is happening on the ground, and how this initiative could inspire communities everywhere. So let's get started.
Sounds good.
So, can you share with our audience your why? Why are you doing this, and what inspired you to take this ambitious step to create a project out of nothing that will benefit your city and your neighborhood?
So there's a lot to it. One of the main reasons, and we've talked about it before, it's important to live a life of service. Now, people may not know exactly what that means, but the greatest fulfillment that we can get in life, and not just happiness, but joy, true joy, is to serve others in whatever capacity we can, with whatever skills we have, and serve them in meaningful ways. So for me, it's looking at the problem that we have. It started during 2020 with COVID, and I had the privilege of working from home, being in finance and working in banking, and I didn't have to spend 2 hours on the road anymore. So I said, what can I do with those 2 hours? And then I ran across really cool people, because I'm not the most creative person in the world, but you can always pick from really great ideas from other people. So there was Ron Finley, the gangster gardener out of LA that I found. And then there was Jake Mace out of Tempe, Arizona, and he had made his own food forest in his backyard. Whereas Ron Finley took a different approach, and he was planting vegetables on parkways that used to have needles, trash, just all sorts of garbage. And instead, he started beautifying them and actually planting food for the community. And so I said, well, why not combine both of those together? Not just vegetables, but also fruit trees. Vegetables as well, of course. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. As much food as possible. But just combine them both together and then really start spreading that. And so I started with my property. You know,
What area of Phoenix are you for the listeners?
so very close to downtown. I'm right off 35th and Van Buren, 35th Avenue in Van Buren. We're about, five 5 to 10 miles out from downtown Phoenix, 5 to 10 minutes away, and we're aggressively expanding. So the project is going to be to start, and as we get more and more support, it's going to spread everywhere, of course. And I encourage anyone who wants to do the same to reach out to me and ask me like how I did it, any starting steps, anything like that, if they want to start doing it in their own cities. But it's going to be from 35th Avenue to 37th Avenue, and from Van Buren all the way down to Roosevelt, which is around 20 square miles of neighborhood parkways.
That's incredible. It's just a huge project. You've been doing it alone for 4 years?
Yes. Yeah, primarily, I do have some people in the neighborhood. One person, Carlos, in particular, who's been helping me out, and I pay him. But I have the capacity to do this, and there is a there's a master sergeant in the Marine Corps that said, okay, well, he gave a speech on responsibility, and a lot of people don't know that that's two words, response and ability, and they were combined. So we really took that to heart when I was in the Navy. And what he said was, the more ability you have, the more response you should take to fix problems that you can.
I love that. That that is, I'm going to remember that. Somebody write that down for me, Dr. Ramunda. Please do that. Um, so you started this during the pandemic. You're using all your own money, your resources, even to
Correct.
pay Carlos, correct?
Yes, correct.
So you're starting to employ Carlos is from the neighborhood. Is that right?
That's correct.
Can you can you share with our audience what type of neighborhood is it is for people that don't live in Phoenix?
So I wouldn't say it's the worst neighborhood. It's definitely not the best either, but we're primarily a Hispanic neighborhood, very, very large Hispanic community. I bought my house a little over 8 years ago, and of course, I didn't start it until 4 years ago. So it, it it's changing. And before it completely changes, that's another thing that I am aggressively why I'm aggressively working on this. There's a lot of gentrification happening in the neighborhood. I was one of the only Caucasian people when I bought my house to actually live in the neighborhood. Uh, and unfortunately, a lot of people that are lower income, which the neighborhood is primarily lower income to lower middle class income, uh, they're being forced out just due to the current economy and things like that. And that's also part of this. The why for this is a lot of people don't realize how important food is, but it affects everything. It affects our finances. It affects our mental and physical health. It affects the community and how strong neighbors are with each other. Um, it affects just positive impacts of just going outside and being able to see nature.
It does, and in Phoenix, it's not this green utopia, right? It Phoenix is a desert, and I remember you telling me that there used to be irrigation ditches in this neighborhood. There used to be farms in this neighborhood, correct?
Correct. We were an agricultural neighborhood. That was another thing that it's been happening for decades. There's another speaker that I listen to a lot, and I think that we forgot that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and that's the previous generations that came before us. So we make decisions like burying and tearing down the old irrigation lines that we had with SRP, changing agricultural neighborhoods to uh, more residential and rezoning things, and not thinking about the long-term impacts of how that affects us. And as we get larger and larger as a city, you know, it doesn't hurt to have food where you live. So encouraging people to own some chickens, or if they don't want chickens, some quails or ducks. Um, I have a tilapia pond in my backyard, but like any small things you can do, even if it's small little plants where you're growing some vegetables, whatever amount you can limit the need of the necessity of depending on grocery stores, I should say, because it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be the internet goes down in Phoenix for some reason, or there's a natural disaster in Phoenix for some reason, or a company has a glitch in their computer software, and it's a transportation company, and now there's less goods in Phoenix. The system we have is very, very fragile. I'm not saying it's not great, but the less dependent we are on it and the more self-sufficient we are, the better off we are, because if something does happen, we have food.
Absolutely. I'm 100% behind that idea because, and that's how we came together because tell the folks how it was for you trying to find a nonprofit to work with because you in order to apply for grants you have to have either a nonprofit status yourself or work with a nonprofit that's able to work in Arizona. And tell me what that process was like for you, and when did you start looking for a nonprofit to get behind this idea of the world's largest food forest?
Yeah, so I would say the first 3 years kind of loosely, but really the last year I was really more aggressively pursuing it because, like you said, it started off with I need to send you pictures of what my backyard used to look like. It was just a desert lot like every other backyard, and then I started spreading onto my parkway, and it was just another side desert lot or side desert parkway. And when I had truckloads of wood chips coming in, people thought I was crazy. And then the young fruit trees, and they said those are going to die. And then they started seeing them growing, and it spread. So when I was pursuing actively over the course of this last year, getting a charity to sponsor me, which was important to me because I want to keep control of this. And that's another reason I sort of didn't want to start my own nonprofit, because when you do, you have to form a board, and then that board, if they decide down the road that they don't like the direction of your vision or where it's going, they can kind of push you out. So this allows me to also retain control of the vision of it. But I called dozens, hundreds of charities. And unfortunately, and this is another thing that really bothers me in life, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And uh, there's a lot, not saying every charity is bad, and some of them serve good functions, but there's a lot of varying levels of them. There's some charities that get money and they don't really solve a problem at all. I'm not saying it's the worst, but they provide informational flyers or educational stuff, and they get millions of dollars. And then there's other charities that actually do serve functions, which is treating a problem, like banks. I love food banks, but all we're doing is mitigating a problem. We're not solving it, because depending upon the economy and how many homeless people there are, or how many people are in need, or whether it's low income families or whatever it may be, we're just feeding them for that month or day and just getting by and alleviating the problem, not really solving it. And so that's part of this vision, is I want to solve this problem. I want us to live in a world where there's so much food around, there's absolutely no worries.
It's a beautiful world to imagine. And I really do believe, I'm like you, I do believe if we put our resources in the right places, we'll be able to do that. And if we can just change the mindset of people. So for instance, you're building not only this amazing food forest on the verges of the streets, which is a term I had to learn because that's the space between the homeowner's lot, right, and the street. And in your neck of the woods, these are this is like barren land. There's hardly anything that grows there. But behind your head is one of those verges, and you're growing what behind your head is sugar cane. You've probably got some fruit trees in there, guava, if I remember. You've got some raised beds. You're planting vegetables like.
Vegetables. So right now we're on 11 parkways with over 90 fruit trees, and we have 60 plus vegetables. Uh, and I am always going for things that are, you know, perennial and live multiple years. So I'm a big fan of pepper plants. big fan of eggplants. I'm a big fan of planting like rosemary bushes, which can handle the Arizona heat. And that's another thing is focusing on trees to start that can bear that heat, change the climate, start creating a microclimate, and then you can start growing more stuff. It's a little bit more exotic and you have a little bit more variety. Uh, but to stick with it, one of my favorites is the Pakistani mulberry. You
Why is
plant
that?
them, yeah, they're like a blackberry.
Yeah.
For most people who don't know, they're very, very sweet. They get to be about 2 inches long, anywhere from like an inch to 2 inches long, and very, very good at, after you put them in the fridge for a bit. You can make jams with them, you can make pies with them, you can make all sorts of stuff. But they get to be about 50 to 75 feet tall. So not only is it providing a ton of food, it's
Oh,
providing a ton of shade. And
yeah.
it starts allowing you to, like, hey, I'm going to plant some more varieties of other things. So seasonally, I'll mix in other things too with vegetables. Like someone asked what variety of mulberry. I'll repeat it. It's the Pakistani mulberry. Handles the heat very, very well and the cold very, very well. They are just the best. I cannot. If you are in Phoenix, that is the tree.
They're
Very just
delicious too. They're so delicious. I've had some and I've never had that type of mulberry before. I know John and I in Washington, there's along this river that we spend a lot of time walking along. They have huge mulberry bushes, but they're typical of what you would find in the northern climates, right? They're more like a raspberry, right? But I have never seen them. You're seriously 2 inches long, but the flavor is just incredible. And a 75-foot mulberry bush, so like that's impressive. How much fruit would that provide for a neighborhood?
each one hundreds of pounds a year.
Wow.
Once they get to full maturity, it's an insane amount of food, an insane amount of fruit. And so we've got everything. We've got citrus, of course, multiple varieties mixed in there. We've got deciduous, non-deciduous trees. A ton of figs. Figs do really well in Arizona. I really love olive trees. Olive trees also get massive, 50 to 75 feet tall as well, and they provide hundreds of pounds of fruit a year. And then there's more aspects to this, and I researched so many different organizations. Some of them fizzled out, unfortunately. There was one in Chicago. I'll have to check up on them. I don't know if they're still running, but they were doing like rooftop gardens and also like neighborhood gardens and things like that. And what they started incorporating, and this is also where the vision comes in, is we're going to be partnering with schools, first of all, and providing educational opportunities and planting fruit trees in the playground and vegetables in the playground and start educational programs. But beyond that, you can start incorporating it with the neighborhood where different people can make different products. So
Yeah.
when you're doing this and you're planting earthworms and then you have the wood chips on top, your soil starts becoming natural earthworm castings. So you can bag up your soil and you can sell earthworm castings in the neighborhood. You you can create shops where you're actually building garden beds for people and selling garden beds as it gets more and more attention and spreading those across the country. You can start bagging your own seeds and packeting them and then selling that. It's food is everything. When they told us money doesn't grow on trees, they lied. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry every single year.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Phoenix Food Forest Initiative is not just a project for you, it's actually a movement because of not only does it build community, and I just want to focus on that for a minute. It stunned me when you told me what was happening within the neighborhood as people started to see what you were doing. And over the years, they got used to you being out there planting these little trees and little transplants and watching them grow and watering them, with your hoses from your house. I mean, I've been there. You've got a lot of hoses. and and so what happened tell the story of what happened in the neighborhood. What happened with the people in the neighborhood?
Yeah, so I've had multiple people that over the years that have stopped by and let me know that they've been starting their own gardens in their backyard. I've had neighbors seeing me do what I'm doing, and they started planting their own fruit trees naturally. So, and of course, they're in their own yards for their own purposes, but that's perfectly fine with me. They've got some fruit trees on their property just because of this, and more people are seeing it, and more people love it. And like I told you, everyone thought I was crazy, but as they saw my parkway become successful, because I knew I had to have a proof of concept, right? I can't ask people to believe in something if I can't show them it can work.
Yeah.
So as that happened and they saw my parkway, more and more neighbors started saying yes, and that's why we're on 11 right now. I have multiple other neighbors that have already given me the go ahead, and by February, we will be on over 15 parkways with over 160 fruit trees for the neighborhood, and we will have well over 100 vegetable plants. The goal is around 200 vegetable plants I want to have on all the parkways at a bare minimum.
And the people started coming out of their houses, right? That you hadn't noticed that before. You didn't
People,
know your neighbors.
people walking by saying hello to me, people stopping in their cars, people introducing themselves, telling me that they love what I'm doing for the neighborhood, women in the neighborhood taking walks and just saying they love looking at it. Uh,
Curb appeal. That's the ultimate curb appeal is when you're growing green on the curb. It's amazing.
and just with my backyard alone, and it will change more and more as it goes by. But I walk out in the morning and I'll have hundreds of birds in my backyard just singing.
And when I love that because I'm a bird person. I wherever I am, I'm feeding the birds. I love the sound of the bird calls because you know everything's okay. If the
Right.
birds are chirping, you know everything in your vicinity is a-okay. When they're not, you better pay attention and run, right? Something's coming. And for them, it's usually a hawk or something like that. But um, the thing is I love the fact that you guys are your community is getting to know each other. That must be improving the vibe in the community and also security. Are you
Yeah.
getting together and hanging out? Are you getting to know each other?
And that's the thing. We're planning multiple events to start doing neighborhood barbecues, things along those lines. With more and more funding, we'll be able to do more and more. We've been, as you know, we've been actively working on that. Um, but it's just getting that awareness, getting additional funding coming in will greatly help expand this much, much quicker. Um, that's the goal.
Absolutely. So, what sort of things do you need to what I know one of your goals is to be able to quit your job and run this full time. So, what sort of other than that, and that would take a salary, a yearly salary. So, maybe somebody who listens to this call runs a company and is saying, "Oh, I'm so in. I'm gonna commit to 5 years of salary for Christopher Macy." Um, I would be ecstatic if that happened for you. I would be thrilled. So what other things does the food forest need in the way of supplies?
Yeah, so I wanted to address one question because I know someone reached out and they asked if the parkways are public or private. All of it's public. That's the entire point of this. This is the entire purpose. I want people to come by and have access to fresh, clean, healthy new food within their neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
I was about to say news, sorry. But fresh, clean, healthy food within their neighborhood. And it's one of those things where we're going to have excess food. So I'm going to have no problem, which we'll get to the resources, donating that food
yeah.
to the food bank, which is just down the road from my house. We have a food bank right off 35th Avenue, and it's like Buckeye. Um, so that's going to be huge. But some of the next things we're going to need is we're going to need to get water towers, and then we're going to need to get drip lines and automated timers. That way we can alleviate the need of throwing 500 feet of hose around, roughly a football. That's where we're at. It's roughly a football field of parkways that we
Wow.
on. But I yeah, those automated drip lines will alleviate a lot of time, a lot of resources, allow me to focus on other things. Um, I have a truck right now, being able to get a water tank for that to help fill those water towers for when they're low and we're not getting a ton of rain. Things like that will greatly help. Um, additional, additionally, I mean, ideally down the road as it grows more, hiring additional employees, but even then, shovels, wheelbarrows, things like that, basic basic needs as we spread further and further out.
Do you see yourself, you talked about helping schools, putting trees and, raised beds and things in schoolyards. You've got, is it Carl Vincent, the
Uh,
local school there?
Carl Hayden is right
Oh,
across from my house. We've got a middle school and an elementary school, TJ Butler Elementary. Forgetting the middle school's name, forgive me. Um, but so I work with all three of those schools, and that way, as kids grow up, they can spread, they can grow their knowledge and learn more and more from elementary school to middle school to high school, and really enjoy it in each one of their schools as they progress.
because it's important that the generation coming up, they learn all these skills. These are skills that are lost to many people. I grew up in a farm, so I know how to survive in many, many ways. You've been in the military, you've been trained to survive in the worst conditions. But there's so many people that have no idea. And I think that we have to get back to understanding that we are responsible for ourselves first and foremost, in our families, our neighborhoods, and it expands from there. What about creating a park like atmosphere? Now you're filling up all the verges on the blocks. What about empty lots that the city might have, or you know a, a a business in the area? They might have extra space to the side of their building.
We're working on that.
Yeah.
That's completely in the lines. I think management had a question about me facilitating any government relationships, and glad they asked. As we've talked about, you're well aware. I have with the local city of Phoenix, formed a few relationships. One of the most important is Roseanne Albright with the city of Phoenix. We're waiting on the grant to open up so that we can apply for it. But there is a large grant this fall that if we were to get would be huge. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to be following up with her shortly, actually, to see if it has. Uh, and there is blank land. We have a huge park uh, right across from the high school and right down the street from my house as well, and that's part of the goals. We have an empty lot that is partially private owned and partially owned by one of the schools. So um, working actively on forming those relationships. Really, it's a huge endeavor. That's why any support that anyone can provide is massive. I put as much time into this as possible. But as we've talked about, my real talents are one, running this project, and two, planting the fruit trees, managing fruit trees. I'm also good with people, um, but just out of time and necessity, having you has been great because getting grant applications and things along those lines when I'm managing everything else can be kind of tricky to do everything all in one without help.
Well, and I love it because we get to talk on the phone probably once a week. We talk, and you update me, I update you based on whatever grants our grant writing team have submitted, or if I see a sponsorship thing, or we put something into KFC not too long ago, and we've got our fingers crossed. And you don't always hear back from the the funders. No, somebody's here doesn't realize I'm doing a show right now. Um, I I can't help you. I can't help you. Sorry, I'm I can't help you at the moment. Okay. So take that. Thank you. Excuse me, everybody, for that interruption. Um, I think that happens with our phone calls too, Christopher. People just barge in. That's the world of live Zooms. So, um, what what do you what do you need from people?
It can be anything. Really picky. I mean, if people want to donate to the seed grant we have going right now, that'd be huge. If people want to donate fruit trees, or vegetable plants or heirloom seeds, that would all be great too. If people want to come by, if they're in Phoenix, and just see it and help, if people want to get involved in just spreading the word, to people they may know, whether it's in the city of Phoenix, because someone did ask if there's a office of sustainability. Not really. They do have an office that runs their agricultural projects, but it's not necessarily an office of sustainability. Uh, but I mean, if people wanted, if they knew people that could sponsor this, that would be huge as well. I mean, really
Right,
just,
big companies, sports teams, those kinds of things.
yeah, just getting the word out, because the more support we get, the more I can do with it. And we've talked about this before, but once again, I hope people can hear it, and I do mean this from the bottom of my soul. Uh, I'm sincere about this. Like we said or like I told you the day I met you. If not a single person helped me, I'll do this until the day I die, and I'll complete it. Um, but help would be great.
And I'm just going to encourage everybody to go out and spread the word. Just share this Zoom. We'll put it up as soon as I get the recording. I'll put it up on my page. Christopher will put it up on his LinkedIn page. I will, on my page, I'll share Christopher's. I think I've already tagged him on that. Are there any last words that first of all, are there any questions from the audience that haven't been asked? Is there anybody who wants to put their hand up?
I do.
Who was that? Somebody said something. Okay, just a minute. Unmute. Dr. Ramunda, how are you?
Yes.
Can I
Great, great.
put you on spotlight?
You know you're gonna do it anyway.
So Dr. Ramunda is a gut health expert, wellness educator. She's from the East Coast, so but you have a cousin here in Phoenix that works for the Diamondbacks, so you have a little bit of family here. But Dr. Ramunda and I do another show called Real Talk, and sometimes help out with Dr. Ronnie's Red Hot Topics. So we know each other fairly well, Christopher. And what's your question?
So I have a question. You mentioned about the water irrigation machines, right? Um, is it a certain type of machines that you're needing, and are they costly to give, or is it certain ones that you would need? How does that work?
They're not incredibly costly.
'Cause I'm looking at some now. I'm not sure if this is the same thing on Amazon. I'm looking at water irrigation with the tubes and the. I'm like, is that the type that you're referring to?
That'd be exactly what we'd be using, and then we'd be burying those lines. That way, neighborhood dogs don't get to them. Things like that, right? Limits the amount of maintenance that needs to be done, and replacing any of the tubing that may get damaged with the summer heat or just general animals. But the ones you're looking at on Amazon are very similar, to what we'd be purchasing, and that's honestly one of the biggest needs, because creating as much time efficiency, and being able to focus my attention elsewhere would be huge.
So
Uh,
to have cords like 100 is what is the long what is the type of cords that you need hose that you would need? 100 feet? I know I'm not sure how many feet that it's referring to. How many feet would you need in reference to the water irrigation hose?
Yeah, so we're at 100 feet would be great to start, because we're going to need water tanks as well, which are going to be kind of pricey as well, that we're gonna be hooking them up to. So that would be fine just initially to even start. And then just even getting 1 or 2 hours would be huge. Goal is to set up a water tower on every single parkway. Some parkways are larger than others. So going east to west, the parkways are a lot smaller, but north to south, they're much bigger. So they can run about 40, 50 feet of neighborhood parkway, if not more, depending upon the parkway. Um, Along with that, it's mainly the main cost is going to be the tubing and replacing and maintaining it, from purchasing the initial automated timers and water irrigation lines. Uh, and that'll just be general maintenance and updating.
Yeah, because some of them look like they come with a whole kit. I
Yep.
really, I guess show Siobhan what it is that you actually talking about when it come down for that, and have her to send it to me, and and I'm gonna reach out to again Arizona myself and see um just a couple of things, ask some questions about it. But show Siobhan the actual type of hose that you're referring to, so she can send it to me, so I can have an idea what it is that you basically need in reference to that.
That's cool.
I really appreciate it. And if you wanted to do one other thing, and I know Siobhan talked about it before, we're still waiting to actually hear back from the Diamondbacks. I've been working with them for a little over a year, and I know they're busy with the 2025 planning, the holiday season. Um, but if I'm able to take over their garden program, that would open up a just massive door for potential sponsorships. And then I would be able to help the Diamondbacks out with running a successful garden program that the community can actively be involved with. And they can also say they're supporting the largest urban food forests in the United States.
And we also
Yeah.
have a member of the Growing to Give board advisory board here, Marite Ball, from Ohio. She's also involved with a community garden up there that Growing to Give is partnering with. Did you have a question, Marite? It's good to see you.
Well, first I want to congratulate Chris, and my heart is beating faster with all the good stuff you're doing. So thank you so much. And then so I'm on the board of Akron Cooperative Farms, which was used to be an abandoned baseball field for over 10 years or even 20 years. And now it's a lush garden. 130 plus gardeners have a plot. A lot of them are immigrants, legal immigrants from Nepal and Bhutan. And then, of course, we have a local community. And it's just a wonderful program. And we piloted the system from Going to Give. And we had so much production of food, especially the squash, kept growing past the season and climbing on the neighbors' feuillage. I'm from France, by the way, originally. Sometimes I forget my words in English. But anyways, so now we're starting a project in Cleveland. And so I will definitely connect with you, Chris, because I would like to copy to leverage everything you've been doing and do the same, especially in Cleveland.
Absolutely. I want, the more there is, the more people there are doing this, the better. It's, I look at it being a veteran, and I think as humans, we tend to complicate problems and make really simple problems way too big and overcomplicated. It's just planting fruit trees. It's just planting vegetables. It's just buying a few chickens and letting them eat some bugs and chicken feed. It's
There's
should have,
actually some places that won't let you do this. So Phoenix is
Right.
very progressive in the
yeah.
fact that,
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
can I share that funny story?
yeah.
So Arizona is finally, I will say, one of the freest states. Our state legislature recently passed a law that no local city or county can have any regulations against anyone in Arizona owning chickens.
Oh
Now,
my gosh, that's amazing.
yes, and the funny story behind that is while I was doing this, I did have some local city employees that were a little bit overzealous, and they violated my property rights, and they were spying in my property from the back alley and looking over my wall, and they told me that I owned too many chickens. So I was actually technically charged for a while with a first degree misdemeanor for owning too many chickens and looking at
Oh,
either
jeez.
fine or potential jail time. Thankfully,
What?
the city council, I was able to get that rescinded, and I am not a criminal. But you
For
know,
owning chickens, too many chickens. There's a law against that. That's absolutely ridiculous.
there was
That's what
ordinance,
has to change. Wow.
and now
Ain't no law in them eating it though, is it?
That's
All you can eat.
true.
but
Go
we're
ahead,
good.
Chris.
We're free now, so that's the good
Oh,
news.
that's amazing. That's a wonderful news. Oh, that's so you guys, Dr. Ramunda Marite, you'll have to find out what your laws around having chickens on your own property and gardens as well. Because I have heard of cities that don't want people to have any gardens, front, back, or side gardens, and not if you're growing food. Um, I think some areas I've lived in, they probably have, a freak fest about that too. Don't grow anything that isn't, approved by the neighborhood. Or,
Look, my
um,
mom lived in Northeast DC, and a couple of houses down there was chickens in Northeast DC. There was chickens. Yeah. So my grandmother had a garden. My grandmother my girl had garden her yard, but there was chickens a few houses down from her.
well, what I want to do now is, Christopher, what are some final words that you want to leave with the audience? Because I think it's time to wrap it up. It's amazing. Um, I'm just so honored to be working with you, and we're so aligned, and we have these great philosophical conversations as well. So I'm really happy that our team is able to work alongside with you to build the nation's, perhaps the world's largest food forest. How many more trees till it's the largest food forest? We're
We're
close,
gonna
right?
up there. There's a few countries that are pretty progressive with this, and I think I found one that I think they planted around 20,000 something fruit trees, if not more. Like an entire, like a huge forest of fruit trees. It's more centrally located though. So with this project, it's as it spreads, it's going to be like literally in neighborhoods. People don't have to travel to it. It's where you live. So that is a little bit more unique with it. But I guess my parting words would be, um, it doesn't have to be just gardening. I know pretty much everyone in here is passionate about gardening or agriculture. Um, but use whatever talents you have to create as positive of a culture as possible and impact the world. Like a lot of people say it's not that complicated. Be the change you want to see in the world, and then take one step towards it every day. It's just taking one step. Don't overthink it. Don't let that what if switch in your head kick in. What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? Just start. And once you start, you'll be amazed. If you just take one step every day, make progression every single day. The greatest saying is you always overestimate what you can accomplish in a day, but you'll always underestimate what you can accomplish in a year.
Bravo. That's wonderful. So as I wrap everything up, I want to thank Christopher for sharing an amazing, inspiring story of love for community, love for nature, love for, the world, and, trying to, change what's not working in the world. And I encourage everybody to share this. As I said earlier, I'll make sure as soon as I get the recording to put it up on my LinkedIn page, and put it up on Growing to Give social media pages. And you can find Growing to Give, growingtogive.org. We're the .org, so make sure you do that. And you can reach Christopher or myself through Growing to Give, through the Contact Us page, or I'm Siobhan at growingtogive.org. And I can always get emails to Christopher. And I encourage you, if you have the funds to donate, you make sure you let us know that you've done that, and that it is specifically for the Phoenix Food Forest. If you know of a sponsor nationally or locally that you can encourage to jump on board and help out, we have great sponsorship options for them. And just what's really easy is just to share the word. Share, and amplify this movement. And we will keep you updated every year. Maybe this is going to be something that we do every year, Christopher, give everybody an update on how the year went. So hopefully we see you back here next year. You can donate. I put the link, and it's also on my page. It's for seed money. There's a crowdfunding donation thing going on seed money right now. I think it's 11 days left, and you can always go on to Growing to Give, and we ask for like 11, 22, 33, or $44. We don't ask for a whole lot more than that. Or you can send checks directly to Kashmir, Washington office, and make sure you just say that it's for the Phoenix Food Forest, and our people up there will make sure that Christopher gets that money. So let's look towards a greener Phoenix and a brighter future for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, Siobhan.
You're welcome.
Thank everyone.
Thank you all for joining. We really appreciate you sharing time with us tonight.
If you have any questions too, I'll just throw this one last thing out there. My website's it's just rebuildinglifegardens.com. My contact info is there too.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.